Welcome to Aligned for Success podcast, where we help chiropractors create practices that truly serve their life's vision. I'm your host, Dr. Nikki, and I'm here to show you how to break free from stagnation, grow your practice, and rediscover the joy of why you became a chiropractor to begin with. Whether you're looking to boost your revenue, spend more time with family, or simply enjoy practice life again, you're in the right place. Let's align your path to success. What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Align for Success. I'm here with two of my most favorite people. It is Dr. Logan and Bailey Sloan, and they are in Birmingham, Alabama. So we are very close in proximity, which is sort of like 5 hours away, but Alabama's Alabama. And so we really bonded over being from Alabama. And I'm super excited to have them here today because they are not only complete badasses when it comes to running and building a business. They also have a very unique method where they are both co-owners of the practice. And so I brought them on today so that you guys can really just get a good idea that owning a business doesn't have to look textbook, that there are many different options. And I would just love for them to share their story with you. So welcome. Thank you for being here.
The Roll Tide. Thank you for having us.
Aren't you War Eagle?
I just felt right. I don't know.
A Roll Tide always feels right, no matter how much you hate Alabama. It just makes no sense. So it's funny.
Yeah, it feels good, but we're excited to be here. Thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming on. Well, tell everybody about you guys.
Yeah, so I'm Bailey, and I am not a chiropractor. And
I'm Dr. Logan, and I am indeed a very proud to be a chiropractor.
Yeah, so we met in, long story short, which we'll get into long story long here in a second, but we met in a previous office and ended up making the decision to open up our own practice. We co-own it 50-50. I lead all team operations systems, and she is a really badass doctor and leads all clinical side. So that's kind of us in a nutshell, but I'm sure we'll break it down here in a little bit.
How long have you guys been in business?
April will be 2 years. So we're about a month out from being 2 years open.
Congratulations. Was the first year the hardest?
Yeah, and the second.
And the second, all right. Okay, I'm in year 10 and it's still hard. Just kidding. It's so great. No, but that's really what I want you guys to share about too. Is not just your successes, but things that have come up along the way that maybe someone thinking about opening a business or someone who's an associate right now, how the associate model is different than owning a business and just the glorified side of business ownership. So go ahead and tell us your full story.
So, long story long, here we go. I met working for a chiropractic office that had multiple locations, also here in Alabama. I actually did my internship with them and then associated at their main location for like 4 months after graduation. And then they gave me the awesome opportunity to open their first satellite location, which was a huge deal. So I kind of got the internship experience. I got the, multi-doc associate experience. And then I got the keys to go drive on a new clinic with no financial risk, which was like a massive, massive blessing. All while I was doing that, Bailey was brought on board at the same office, their main location, for like social media. She was cross-trained as a CA, and then because she's a super badass employee, she climbed the ladder and started to get into business development, branding, team, all that kind of stuff. I'll let you take your position from there.
Yeah, so I got hired on, it was after COVID. I had just gotten laid off. Stupid decision on their part, but they laid off people from COVID, so I was looking for a new position. I had a friend, we actually had a mutual friend that worked at this office. And she said, hey, I think you'd be a good culture fit. So I was like, sure, why not? You need a personality hire. I'm game. I'll learn whatever. And I got hired to do social media. But as you know, in any office, if you're getting hired for social media, you're also being cross-trained as a CA.
As everything. Yeah.
So I did that. I trained really fast, which I didn't know was uncommon, but no one told me it was supposed to take long. So I just knocked out training. It came really naturally to me because I think I just had a natural curiosity curiosity about it and learning the profession, learning the office culture and systems. And I'm really more wired and gifted in the strategy systems area. So I really latched onto that and then just created opportunities for me to kind of, I wouldn't say like move up, but move further in the development side. So as they were starting to open up new offices, acquire offices in other states, I was kind of that right-hand person to help go analyze team and all of that. And so we really both got equal experience in kind of like opening and launching an office in terms of system side on my side of things and then clinic side on hers. But she also had pretty much, like she said, like keys to drive and really just led it. And so we both had experience in the field, but obviously never being business owners.
Right.
And so we kind of one thing led to another, which we can get into more of those details. But we just decided that as we were both moving up into different realms of this specific office structure, we were just seeing things that didn't really sit well with our vision and our values that, like you say, isn't aligned with us as people. And so we knew we would make a ton of mistakes of our own and it was going to be really hard, but we felt like it was worth it. And we owed it to ourselves and the people we serve to do certain things aligned with ourselves. And so that's kind of how we made the decision to make that move.
That's awesome. And then Bailey, how much did you know about chiropractic before you took that job?
Approximately one video on TikTok I saw.
Yeah.
Where rat-ta-ta-ta on Y strap or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, the ring dinger? I don't think I'm even allowed to say that.
Yeah, so not much.
Copyrighted information. Okay. And so you went from really not knowing anything about chiropractic to being fully on board in what, like 2 years?
Yeah, if that, I would say.
Yeah, that's amazing. Okay. And so since opening your practice, how has that journey been for you guys?
It's been a journey for sure.
So one of the things too that I feel really heavily motivated us to leave that previous practice, because there's nothing like stability in income and work and all the things. So entrepreneurship is not typically that. And especially when you've never done it before, there's a lot of unknown there. So leaving a stable job like that is really scary. But one of the big things that pushed us, the straw that broke the camel's back, they say, to go do it was not being valued by leadership and also not being paid well for what we were doing and what we were bringing to the business. In both of our positions, I was essentially like a clinic director. And then obviously Bailey was doing
multi-location office management. Yeah. That's like, I have similar, like I was an associate also, and I was really content being an associate until I wasn't. And it was for that same reason, just not feeling appreciated, like doing so much, not getting paid for it, not having any like say in what happened in the business. But ultimately I got let go anyway, which was the best thing that ever happened. But at the time it didn't feel like it because I love stability. I'm not like a really vision kind of person. I'm like, give me a list, tell me what to do and I will do it. So yes, you like having that stability is one of the greatest things of being an associate, and it's also like at what expense? And that's where one of the great parts of owning a business does come in. So you go ahead. Sorry, I cut you off.
Very good. So that's a huge piece of like, we really wanted to, when we decided to open a business, like I'm obsessed with chiropractic, probably more than a lot of humans. And so I was never worried about like chiropractic and the results that we would get in practice. But one of the things that was so important to us was to create a absolutely amazing team culture. After coming from a place that we weren't valued well, we weren't paid well, it was just like that was a huge piece of the puzzle for us. I would say I was almost more excited to open a business to create a place that was awesome to work for our team than even about the like being a chiropractor side at the beginning, because we had felt so like burned by that at our previous location. So opening a business, it's funny because the irony in that is the hardest part about us owning and running a business has been leading our team and learning how to lead people and do it really, really well, and creating a place where people want to stay and they want to stay for a really long time because they feel valued. They feel like they're making an impact and we're paying them well enough that they want to stay long term. So I feel like in terms of going from we weren't treated well to we want to do this thing to now we're doing it and kind of crushing it, to be honest.
Yeah, you are.
Cool.
How I would say too, obviously I had Bailey come in and do some culture work for my own office. So what are some things, Bailey, that you would say help to cultivate team culture? What are some things you guys do, or what, in your experience, what works really well?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think, and if y'all are note takers, write this down. The number one way to make your team feel like you care about them is to care about them. So I know that's super simple, but it really is. Like, there's such a difference when you are genuinely connected to your team in a relational way. And I know there's certain boundaries between relational and professional. We've even had to manage those ourselves. But I think it is honestly even what makes Logan and I work as good as a team as we do, because we're both invested in each other and we both want to see each other succeed. And that's been the number one thing with our team, is just we ask questions, but it's like personal questions. And it's like we kind of toe that line a little bit, I will say, but we always give them space to set that boundary. And we set boundaries of our own, but we go out on the lake with our team and we have our team over and like make dinner. And I just think that that's so underrated of how big of an impact it can have, because you're much more likely to put your heart on the line, work extra hours for someone you love. I mean, you probably do it all the time. Like, you go help your friends move. There are people they could pay to do that, but you go do it because you love them, right? And so if you're especially in a startup or in an office that's so service-based and that's really like you got to put in sweat equity to make a difference in those busy or slow months. Slow months might be you need them out on the streets marketing. Busy months means you might need them to come in an extra day to get some paperwork done. They're going to do that because they know that that's what it takes. And that relational equity is what gets them from it being a job to an opportunity for them to expand their career, but also just like please you as an owner. So that's probably what I would.
Yeah, I love that. And also, obviously, I follow you guys on social media, and their office Instagram is Cadence Chiropractic with a C. And I want to work there. Like, I look at your stories, and I'm like, dang, you're doing really fun, cool stuff. And it just looks fun. And so also when your employees see that, so do your patients and your potential patients. So like, wow, this place just looks like a really cool place to be a part of. And that's how you can like not just grow a community of your team, but a community within your actual community for your people to come to. What are some things that you guys have done over the course of the past 2 years of owning a business that you would say helped to propel your success?
I think the structure in which that we've set up. So I think this is huge. And I think, like you said in the beginning, makes us different is I don't have the clinical chiropractic background. And I think a lot of people maybe coming out of school in a doctor position, and you can even speak of too, like she had dreams of opening up her own practice one day, but the stars really weren't aligning to where she felt confident in her ability to like step into that business owner thing by herself. And so us partnering together and our paths crossing was really a blessing for both of us, because obviously I don't have the clinical side to be able to have the talent necessarily, but I do have the people and business skills. And so I feel like letting each other operate in our own specific lanes and freeing up the energy and mental space for each of those things, I think is huge. And if you think about it in other businesses, like people do it all the time. They have partners and they have in these higher up $1 million businesses, it's very common practice, but a lot of times people don't think that it applies to such a small business. But if you're trying to grow it to be as impactful as your passion calls for, why not think strategically in the beginning with the structure of your business? So that's something I would say. You listed off a couple earlier.
The number one thing was leaving our previous practice. That was the thing that sparked it all. And like I had mentioned, stepping through that fear of, the instability, the unknowns. So that was a big thing. I think we've said this a lot. Deciding not to accept insurance in our office was like one of the best decisions that we made.
Yes.
And I know that sounds like super silly and super like low hanging fruit, but truly such a drastic impact on just like our stress level and like mental capacity is just something that we don't have to worry about.
It's so funny because I just did an interview before this, and one of his was the opposite. It was like making the decision to take insurance and how that's like affected his whole journey. And that's why I like this too, because like you can have something totally different and have really similar practices, but just like the tiny decisions that we've all made really make a huge difference. It's so funny though, because he was like, taking insurance, one of the best decisions. And then you guys are opposite there too.
Yeah. Like you have to, so that was going to be my thing is our biggest decision, you didn't even pay us to say this, but was getting a business coach. And I think the reason is like there's lots of tips and tricks we can kind of rapid fire at you for what's aligned us for success. But really, we didn't even know what our vision was until we got a business coach that saw potential in us. And you think about it with sports, and she uses this analogy a lot, is you always have a coach.
Yeah.
But so when you get to the big leagues, like why would you not have that? And it really helped us see things that were farther out than we could even imagine. Because when you're in the big leagues, like that's when you need coaching most. And like starting from T-ball, you have a coach, right? So why would you not do that in business, especially as a startup? And so I think that's been the number one thing is just having someone that's further along than you and is living the life you want. Because not any coach is going to work out for you. You have to make sure that it's not like if you're not someone that's wanting to grind 60 hours a week to make that month's quota, then that's not the coach for you.
Right.
But we found that with our business coach, which happens to also be Nikki, and the wealthy practitioner. But small plug there. But I would say just having someone, I think leading a business can become very emotional, and you can end up making emotionally based decisions, especially when your personal livelihood and your personal family's lifestyle is on the line and depending on that. So you can get wrapped up in the emotion. So having someone that's more of like just as invested in you as a person and just invested in you in your business, but doesn't have that emotional tie is helpful.
The very first chiropractor I worked for, he was actually in Tuscaloosa. And he told me that basically he talked about Alabama football. And he was like, Alabama football's so good because they have Nick Saban. And whether you love or you hate Alabama, I think most of everyone can agree that Nick Saban is probably the greatest college football coach ever. And he said, Alabama's so good because of Nick Saban. And I've always remembered that. And so I also have always had a coach just from the day that I opened, and I've had several different ones. And at first they were more for like setting up my systems or figuring out care planning or how to answer the phone. And then about 5 years into practice, I hired one to help me with my business. And that was completely game changing. Once I started actually thinking about my business as a business, I started making true money. And then of course, Stephanie was my coach, and that was when everything really changed for me, and then joining the wealthy practitioner. But I think that's also important too, right? Different seasons. And just like you said, finding a coach that like is living the lifestyle that you want to be living. And that was me too. Like who's doing what I want to do and for this specific season of life that I'm in right now. So totally agree. Obviously big proponent of having a coach. And I think for myself too, that really helped to propel my success. Is there any last thing that you guys would say has also helped align your lives for success?
A great question. I think we talked a lot about it. I would just say just figuring, like doing the personal work to figure out why you want to open a business and holding true to that conviction, because that vision is the reason you got into it. And that's what will keep you in it when it gets hard and keep you to ultimately reaching those goals and making decisions that align your path to get there.
That was really well said.
Yeah. One more question for you guys. You guys have 2 associates right now, and Dr. Logan, you've been an associate before. So what are you guys doing differently with your associate to make sure that her experience with you is not the same experience you guys had?
I think kind of what Bailey was talking about a little bit ago of just like building really good relationships with our team. And that includes our doctors, and creating like a collaborative space. So I have told our docs, we do like technique training on Tuesdays every week together. It's like I can learn from them just as much as they can learn from me, and creating a space where it's just we're all working together and we're in this thing together. I think is a huge piece of that puzzle, just that relational equity and creating just a really, really collaborative team environment, I think is huge.
Love it.
And treating them as a tool, but they are a part of the team and get to contribute in that way.
Love it. So I think basically everything boils down to great team culture is trumps literally everything. And that's how we can be super successful.
Definitely.
All right. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for sharing your story. Where can people find you guys on Instagram?
Yeah. So we're at Cadence Chiro and we're a super fun follow. So check us out and we would love to connect if maybe you have questions about how we're set up in a business partnership or our office. We would love to share with you guys.
Love it. Thank you guys so much. If you guys like this episode, don't forget to share on your social media and with your friends. Thank you. And we'll see you all next week. Thanks for tuning in to Aligned for Success. If today's episode resonated with you, please be sure to subscribe and leave a review. This helps other chiropractors find their way to practice freedom too. Remember, true success comes from when your practice aligns with your life's purpose. Until next time, I'm Dr. Nikki Cadence, reminding you that a thriving practice and a fulfilling life go hand in hand. See you next week.